Welcome, brothers, sisters, creatures, Patty, dinosaurs out there, and lizards and everything else roaming around this spring. Mild temperature. This is the second video of the 14th epistle of this book of Judges. And we're covering the incredible story of the judge, Samson. And we left off discussing he returning to the site of carnage where he went hand-to-hand combat with a young lion and easily becomes the victor. So now we continue with what else Samuel writes. And and with that carcass, the honeycomb. So he has this honeycomb from the lion's mouth. So he goes to his father and mother, and he gives them part of it, of this honeycomb. And they also feasted on this incredibly delicious honeycomb made by Croesus's fantastic nature. Neither would he, for all that, tell them that he had taken the honey from the body of the lion. Not saying he lied, he's just not revealing precisely where he found this honeycomb. It just brings home this honey. Hey, Mom, Dad, try this. So, after this, his father, Manoah, he goes down to the woman that Samson has had his eyes feasted on, and has been seeing her for a while. And so he goes down to the woman and made his son, Samson, a feast. Goes to where she resides and makes this feast amongst the Philisthians. And Manoah, I can almost try to imagine if he felt uncomfortable and if he was trying to hide it for the sake of his son, because after all, these were Philistines. Israelites have been living under their rule for 40 years now. So this feast was something that young men were accustomed to having, this incredible feast. Now when the citizens of this place had seen this mighty Samson, well, they gave him 30 companions to be with him. So, which leads me to believe when they see him, from this I gather that Samson must have possessed this one-of-a-kind physique, powerfully built, maybe striated musculature, or maybe bulging musculature. I don't know how Croesus created his body, but it was enough to turn heads that this man is someone you do not want to cross. It's best to be friends with this Israelite called Samson. They give him 30 companions. 30 companions. Certainly Manoah explained to the Philistines the leadership role that Samson was to assume, if he hadn't assumed the judgeship already. Further, the Philistines, as I said, must have been in complete awe upon gazing their eyes upon the physical stature of Samson. Because Samuel clearly writes, the citizens thereof of that place had seen him. It's all about visual with this. So we can draw conclusions because of these visual phrases Samuel keeps injecting. Samuel's presumed royalty status, along with his physical makeup, combined contributed to the Philistines treating him of utmost respect. Hence, gathering 30 princely companions for the son of Manoah. They weren't just 30 ordinary Philistine citizens. Each was a prince of a certain district throughout Dan, and maybe the other nearby tribes of the Israelites which they're occupying. To whom Samson spake, I will propose you a riddle. So he has these 30 companions, all having a good time, and he decides, hey, there's more to this than brawn. I'm going to propose you a riddle. If you shall solve this riddle within 7 days of this feast, I will give you 30 sindonis and as many coats. Sindonis or sindones. It's a sindone is a high quality shirt or a shroud, and it was usually made of linen. The Hebrew text translates the word to be a garment versus using sindon, whereas the King James Bible uses the term shirt. So we have garment, shirt, sindon. All right, Samson continues. However, if you are not able to solve this riddle, you shall give me 30 sindones and the coats of the same number. 30 sindones and 30 coats. 30 garments and 30 coats. So they answered him, okay, propound the riddle that we may hear it. So Samson says to them, out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong issued forth sweetness. This riddle sounds much, much better in Greek and in Latin. All right, let's repeat it. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong issued forth sweetness. Now, understand, Samson is purporting this riddle on the knowledge of stuff he is already cognizant of up until this point in his life. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you try to solve it. So, for 3 days, they could not solve this proposition. And when the 7th day was to come, they said to his wife, they married, obviously after this feast, hey, speak to your husband and use persuasion when you speak to him, that he will tell you what this riddle means. Now, if you will not do this, we will burn thee and thy father's house. How about that for Philistine persuasion? You don't help us with this. You don't resolve this riddle for us. We're going to burn you and your father's house. Have you therefore called us to the bridal that you might spoil us? In other words, have you brought us here that to make fun of us? Let's take one phrase at a time. If thou wilt not do. Okay? Which thing, if thou wilt not do, we will burn thee. Threats are used in order for Samson's wife to betray her, to betray her husband, thereby destroying her and her father. That's the threat. In fact, the persecutors of our Lord's church also deal with the same thing, as traitorously or of frailty serve their turn. Threats are always used by those walking in darkness, especially when their outcome is imminent defeat. What else do they have to resort on? So they resort on threats. Have you therefore called us to the bridal? In other words, they question her with, is it not so that you call upon us to make us poor? What they're trying to do here is they're driving a wedge. Listen, young lady, you are a Philistine before you are the spouse of an Israelite. Where is your loyalty? This is what they're driving in. And the devil loves the weak. And she is going to be weak in this situation. She's scared instead of just taken this entire dilemma to the mightiest man on the planet, she buckles to this weakness versus siding with God, who she has no idea is, except for what Samson's been telling her about. But it's just so sad that this being a marriage and she is not honoring the duality of matrimony. Both together resolve, solve dilemmas, problems, engage together. Instead, she's seeing this as two different nations, tragically, because she's weak. She sheds tears before Samson and complains, saying, "You hate me. You don't love me. Therefore, the problem which you have propounded to the sons of my people, thou won't expound to me. You won't even share the answer with me." But he answers, "Listen, dear, I wouldn't even tell my father or my mother. So how can I tell it to you?" Again, as I said in the previous video, the family unit of the ancient Israelis was such an incredible bond. And Samson shares this here. My mother and father, I owe them everything. So if I can't tell them my deepest, darkest secret, surely I can't even tell my spouse. We're going to have to pause here. Exciting, huh? Next we meet. 7 days are going to expire. What does she do next? And what does Samson do? Until then, pax vobis.